I love F1. That is no secret on this channel. But I also love Formula E. And here's why you should watch it if you don't already. The biggest point of it is that it can be unpredictable as hell. Put it this way, in the 4 races that have happened so far in the 2023 season of Formula E, the pole sitter has only gone on to finish that race on the podium once. That was Lucas di Grassi in Mexico City, the season opener. In fact, we've had 4 different pole sitters this year as well. In 4 races, of course, as I've said, there's been 4 races so far this year. And that's with any series of racing, just because you're leading in the early laps, it doesn't mean you'll be leading in the checkered flag. However, I feel with Formula E, this is a little bit more true. Because first of all, it's not common to see a driver like completely just, run away and hide up front like you'd maybe see Max Verstappen do, say, half the time last season in F1. I mean, on leading in the early stages, but not leading at the checkered flag. Let's look at this season, Race 2 in Diriyah, Sam Bird led a lot of the opening laps. However, then he only finished in P3. The next race, also in Diriyah, it was Mitch Evans who led a lot of the opening laps after taking the lead at turn 1, starting second. However, he only managed to finish the race in P7. And then at race 4 in Hyderabad, the Kiwi managed to lead a lot of the opening laps after starting from pole. However, he retired after Sam Bird committed the cardinal sin of crashing with his Jaguar teammate. Not to mention, of course, Formula E is currently in its 9th season, and in the 8 seasons that have been completed so far, there have been 7 different drivers taking the championship. Nelson Piquet Jr., Sebastian Buemi, Lucas di Grassi, Jean-Eric Vergne, Antonio Felix da Costa, Nick de Vries, and Stoffel van Dorn. Jean-Eric Vergne, the only 2-time champion of Formula E. If you compare that to the last 8 seasons of Formula 1, there have been 3 different drivers winning the championship. Lewis Hamilton, Nico Rosberg, and Max Verstappen. Then if you throw a bit of rain into the mix in a race, then
Shimlina has aquaplaned off! Oh, they're all off! They're all off! Oh dear, it's wet. It is wet. Right, here's what happened. Whoa, Cassidy! Oh my goodness me!
Yeah, I mean, just...
Oh my goodness me! And then a few just sort of slither wide. Oh! And then a couple of big hits at the back, sort of out of and then everyone piles in at the back. Very weird accident, that.
Yeah, all hell breaks loose. I'm not saying that Formula E cars cannot drive in the wet. I'm just saying they struggle quite a bit. That's all I'm saying. I think a lot of that could be down to tires. With Formula E cars, they run all-weather tires. It's not wets and slicks, it's all-weather tires. Whereas they have tread on them, but the tread is only so deep. So as with any tire in the wet, if the amount of water on the circuit is deeper than the tread on the tire, you're gonna get a little bit slippery on the track. I mean, sure, it isn't great when, your race cars can't really race in the wet, but it is entertaining. And I mean, on Formula E not really being able to race in the wet, Formula 1 doesn't race in the wet half the time nowadays anyway, so... Strategy can also play a pretty interesting role, and it can also be quite unpredictable. Well, less predictable than something like F1, say. In Formula E, there's no tire changes, no pit stops. They use the same set of tires for the entire race of however many laps it is. Like heading into an F1 race, and we'll usually have a rough idea of what the strategy could be. But in Formula E, because there's no pit stops, the strategy comes from energy management and attack mode. The cars will start the race with 100% in the battery, but that's not enough to get to the end of the race, so the drivers will have to save energy throughout the race to be able to get to the end, while also still being quick. So there is the aspect of, what do you do in terms of the energy management? Will you save early on and push later in the race, or do you push now at the beginning and then save later on and hope you can, do enough saving to make it to the end of the race and not run out of energy on the last lap or have to back off massively on the last laps just in order to make it to the checkered flag, which has happened. That has happened. Look at Valencia, I think it was, in 2021 in one of the races there, where like most of the field ran out of energy. If you've seen that race, you'll know what I'm talking about. Then you factor in the attack mode. When do you take it and for how long? Because every driver has 4 minutes of attack mode to use during a race, and they have to use it in 2 bursts. 1 minute and 3 minutes, 2 and 2, or 3 and 1. How long do you take it for? You know, when do you give up track position and essentially kind of go for the undercut, or do you stay out a bit longer and, you know, try and not lose track position, you know, just to kind of word it one way. I suppose in that, if you think about it kind of like that, is kind of a little bit similar to, like, say, paying for tires in F1. Do you kind of give up track position and bite the bullet first, or do you wait a little bit longer? But I mean, the unpredictability of the Formula E side of it kind of comes from the fact that heading into the race, like, we don't know what the drivers are gonna do, you know? We don't really fully know what they would do with, like, what the F1 teams do in terms of tire changes either. But, you know, there's a bit more of a rough idea, because there's always generally heading into a race, there's a bit of a rough idea whether it's a 1 stop or a 2 stop, or if it's just on the knife edge. Of course, all this can lead to my next point, and that sometimes the racing in Formula E is absolutely brilliant. Just look at any race in Monaco. I mean, sure, the first 3 times Monaco hosted Formula E in 2015, 2017, and 2019, it was a different layout to the one that is normally used, which is, you know, the full Grand Prix circuit. But in 2021, they did change to use that full Grand Prix circuit, and my god, it did not disappoint. It didn't disappoint in 2022 either, and I have full faith it will not disappoint in 2023. And if you just look at the recent race in Hyderabad, that race was that was one of the most entertaining Formula E races I've seen for a while. You know, a lot of the tracks don't disappoint. Rome is normally a favorite. I really like the Rome Ypres track. The Rome Ypres normally is always a good one. Hyderabad the other week was insane. That was brilliant. Another thing I think is really good about Formula E, it feels like it's a bit more kind of easier to go to word it one way, if you came what I mean. But first off, the ticket prices are fairly cheap, and all the main action happens on one day. Normally FP1 is, you know, on the Friday, then FP2 qualifying the race will be on the Saturday, and then if it's a double header weekend, then there'll be an FP3 on the next day or whatever on the Sunday, and then of course another qualifying race. You know how, you know, that's kind of format of a Formula E weekend. All happens on one day. You know, and just on the ticket price, let's just say, for example, that you wanted to attend the 2 races in London on the 29th and 30th of July, the London doubleheader. And let's just say you're an adult attending on your own. The most expensive ticket for that weekend is £179. I'll tell you what, that is really good for getting to see 2 rounds of racing. That is really good. And bear in mind, I said that's the most expensive ticket. There's cheaper ticket options than that. I'm not seeing 2 rounds of racing. Of course, there's a lot more places that Formula E goes to than London. I was just using London as an example because it's the first one that pops into my head to use as an example. A lot of these tracks that Formula E races on are street tracks in cities. So I suppose that kind of would make it a little bit easier in terms of traveling to the circuit from wherever you're staying for attending the race. Because, you know, in cities, chances are there's going to be a lot more kind of hotel accommodation available and around. Travel time could be less, could be within walking distance, you know? And I mean, come on. We all love shorter travel times, right? Do you watch Formula E? Let me know down in the comments below. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.